gerne bare sådan lige så stille. Der kommer lige 2 mere ned på udstillingen. På vegne af museet kan jeg sige rigtig hjertelig velkommen her i den gamle byrådssal på Køn. På Mændenes Internationale dag den 19. november 2021. Det er faktisk sådan første gang, vi sådan virkelig markerer det her på museet. Med sådan flere programpunkter i løbet af dagen. Og Aske, du får simpelthen lov til at starte ballet lige om lidt. Aske Krejgaard, som er vores huskunde her hele november, og har lavet det, er i gang med at lave det store, fantastiske værk, som jeg tænker, I næsten ikke kunne undgå at se, da I kom ind af døren. Eller faktisk måske også, fordi det er også så stort. Men Aske, du får jo bare ordet og gør det på engelsk.
Ja.
Har vi alle på engelsk, og skal fortælle om dit værk her i næste halve time.
Ja.
Ja.
Tusind
Start
tak.
bare, når du tænker.
Yeah, let's just start. I'm thinking we can do it this way, that I'm for like 15 minutes just talk about the process and the thoughts behind, and then if you're all right with it, we could go down to the sculpture itself, and I could tell more about it there. How do you feel about that? Great. Because as you maybe saw down there, it's a very big sculpture, and it's a naked sculpture, and it's a very vulnerable sculpture, and that's because in making this sculpture I really wanted to work with vulnerability, and also like what do you call it, like the a naked form for vulnerability, like total vulnerability. And I wanted to make a sculpture like this for many years, and I've been doing sculptures now since I was 22 years old. And I just want to tell you a little bit about that because it leads up to this sculpture. Because when I was 22 years old, I studied design, and I was living in Herning and all these things. And after half a year, I got a big depression. And I got a depression because a lot of old things come up, and I was bullied a lot in school. Got bullied a lot about how they saw me as a feminine man. Got beat up and stuff like for 4 years. So when I was a teenager, I actually tried to kill myself because I was so hurt by this and felt very conformed by it. But I was not the only one. There was also other people. And how we spoke to each other was always this. If I sat like this, it was like, oh, you sit like a girl, are you gay? Or something like that. So it's every part of you as a man got commentated all the time. So actually, as men, we kind of hold each other down. And now, as a grown man, I studied a lot about spirituality and also like philosophy and stuff like that. And it's funny because even in religion, in Christianity and Islam and stuff like that, we also kind of like, oh, it should not be gay and all these things, and we should keep the femininity out of man. But actually, if you study down deep into it, you know, the Jewish star, it's actually in old religions, it's just the feminine and the masculine meeting in the heart. And you're only a whole person when these two things conform to each other. And so we go around, especially as men, being half human in some kind of a way. And I did that for a long time, and in my teenage years and after all this, like depression and stuff, I just wear masks all the time. And I'll just let the other people come and sit. And when you wear a mask all the time, you're not true in some sense. For you guys who just sat down, I was just shortly explaining about how this artwork you saw downstairs come through, and how I, in my teenage years as a young man, got bullied a lot and beat up because of my so-called femininity, and how in a youth as a man you hold down this side of you and all these kind of things, and how actually as a human being we are supposed to hold a feminine and a masculine side, and if one side is suppressed, you're just a half human. And so later when I was grown up, I just wear a mask all the times because I wanted to hide this side of myself. I was so ashamed actually, because I got bullied a lot, I was also afraid maybe I was gay, maybe they're right or whatever, right? Which is a stupid question. But it also meant that, for example, I got very afraid of sexuality. I got very afraid of all these things. I was afraid of having relationships with women. So the way I outlived my sexuality as a young man was just drinking and then meeting strangers. And that's not a good thing, because it can be nice, it can be good, but also if you get very drunk and you suppress sides in yourself, especially as a man, and especially if you're depressed, like not so good things can come up. So I have women I've not treated really good as a young man, and I'm very sorry about this, but this is what happened. And so when I was 20 years old, just to go back, I decided at my design school to give all my things away, stop my school, stop my education, my jobs, everything, and I just started traveling the world, because I just wanted to get out in some way or another, and I could not be myself, I thought, in the environment I was living in. And I traveled through all the world. I lived in a refugee camp for 1 year and started an organization that helped children there, and learned a lot about surviving and all these things. I met a lot of people who helped me to open up. And so for 5 years, I just lived by doing NGOs and art and stuff like this. But it was never really vulnerable. I never really opened up. It was always about something else. Then I did a lot of art about refugees or something else. I never really talked about myself and my own struggles. And about 2 years ago, I decided to burn all my art. I could not do this anymore. I could not anymore struggles, anymore survive. I needed to go inside and be vulnerable. Because if you cannot be vulnerable, you can't really love. You can't really be yourself. You can't really treat other people good. You can't treat yourself good. And I was at a point where if I didn't do this, I couldn't withstand myself, because not looking inside meant that I was working 80 to 100 hours a week all the time, just to not thinking. So yeah, I decided to burn all my art and then start over again. And then in this Corona time, I got a lot of time to think and to look inside. And this summer, I decided I was ready now to do art again. And I wanted to do a statement about the vulnerability in a man that is like an inspiration for myself maybe. A man that was able to love, to nurture, and not to be sad about his vulnerability, not to be sad about his femininity, but standing strong in it. So a process started this summer, and I applied for some money and was very lucky to get a little bit of money so I could start the process. And in the first part, it was a very abstract idea. So I wanted to do, like, for example, a upside down pyramid, because that's, the symbol of the femininity, like should drip water in like a fountain kind of thing, like a symbol of water, life, and everything, right? But then I worked together with an architect because I thought maybe he could help me construct this. And then we talked a lot about these subjects, about vulnerability, about man, and all these things. And at one point he said, Aske, if you really want to do a sculpture about vulnerability and really want to be 100% honest, you need to take what do you say? Take the inspiration from yourself. You need to be naked yourself to really do this. And then the process started of doing like this big sculpture and standing naked in it myself. And we did a lot of sketches and everything, and in the end we ended up wanted to do a sculpture that reminded us a little bit about the Greek and Roman sculptures. These classicist, neoclassicist, Stan and all these things. And when we looked at all these male sculptures, they were always strong and they were always with a weapon or ready to kill something or something like that, right? And I wanted to do the opposite. So I wanted to take this Greek neoclassicist sculpture that also was celebrated in the 1800 and 1900 here in Europe. Actually, we found out all these sculptures was colored in all these psychedelic colors now, but we all wanted to think that this was this pure white thing. So that's also why it's white now, because I kind of like to relate to also this male look at art as well that was in the 1800. But talking to the past like this, I also wanted to redefine it. So first of all, a man with boobs, right? Breasts, like feeding a baby. I hadn't really seen that before. I really looked it up and I thought this must have been done before, but I can't really find it anywhere. And in that way I wanted to show a strong man giving space, giving nurture to the next generation instead of killing the next generation. And that's also why the name is what it is. The sculpture is called agape, which is Greek for absolute love, love without boundaries, without expectations. And I feel like when a woman breastfeeds a baby, it's kind of like love without expectations, because she's giving something without thinking of the return. And I thought, okay, that's a beautiful symbol, so we'll put this man with breast able to feed the next generation. And then the process started, and to be absolute naked in this process, I turned absolute naked. So I went to like a 3D scanner, and I took off all my clothes, and then he scanned me. And I stood with this fake naked baby also, and they scanned me. And then my sweet girlfriend, who has helped me a lot in this process also, she took off all her clothes and got scanned, because then we could merge, in a 3D program, we could merge her breasts with my body. So actually, in some way, that's also the merging of the feminine and the masculine we were talking about before. And so the whole 3D sketching got in, and we had to 3D sketch a baby, because it's very hard to, first of all, get a baby. Second of all, get a baby with a naked man. Third of all, getting a baby to be still in a 3D scan process. So we had to sketch that up. So it's kind of like a fake baby down there. And then went on for time, we got the sketches, and then we made a lot of 3D print models of it to like look how it looks, or should it be a little bit different or whatever. And when we got that, we thought, now it's ready. I went to like, I don't know what the English word is, but in Danish it's called fræser. It's like it's kind of like made like an old stone sculpture. So instead of like molding with clay, where you put on and put on and put on, take off, put on, this sculpture is made like stone. So it's actually just been block of polyester and flamingo in Danish. And then we have like cut it out. And in the start we had like a machine to do it. So just very roughly cut out the body. So I had the proportions right. And after that, I could start forming the body, the muscles, the toes, the hands, the face, and stuff like that. And in some way or another, that's also taking like an old way of making sculptures into a new era, where you can use computer technology, but still also do the forming with hands. So the merge of the old and new, the feminine and the masculine. And that's actually the whole idea of this project. Being able to show how we can form the new and the old together, the feminine and the masculine, and show the man being able to be vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, be strong enough to take care and to love. And that's the message I really want to work with myself and also show. So that's the whole idea. And the process right now is that I'm actually finished molding the sculpture, cutting and everything. So right now I'm starting to put, I don't know the English word, but it's called spartel in Danish. plaster, maybe you could call that, on the whole body, because you can see when we go down in a minute, we can see that small holes in it everywhere and stuff like that. And so we fill that out, make it all soft everywhere. And when that's dry, I will put a sandpaper over and do it even more soft. And when that's finished, put a little more plaster on again and sand it over again. And when that's finished, we have to put some kind of, it's not epoxy, but it reminds a little bit of it. It's like a transparent liquid that when you put it on, it dries and it gets very hard. So we put that over 6 times. When it dries, put over, sandpaper put over, until it stands strong, so nobody can come and break it or make holes in it or whatever. If you come with a hammer, you'll destroy it either way, but then you also want to destroy it, but you cannot scratch it by touching it. And in the end, when that's finished, I'll probably paint it, and I'm not sure yet. I will make some experiments, but I'll probably paint it, and maybe with a little bit of glitter in, just to make it sparkle a little bit. And that's the process, and yeah. So that's the sculpture I gave, and I hope you will come and see it, the process of it, and also when we decided the vernissage is ready, and you will come to that. And you can see it finished here. So thank you so much for listening. I think we could take some questions here, if you have some questions to the process. And then if you want to, you can follow me down to the sculpture, and I can tell a little bit about the forms and stuff. Yeah, thank you so much.
That's good. Yeah, I just thought maybe you could say a little bit about, because you have been working on the sculpture here at the museum, so I'm curious about the dialogue you've had with some of the guests here.
Yes, for sure. Sorry. Yes. So obviously there comes a lot of people and you talk with them, and it's very nice. Most people are very positive about the sculpture and think it's funny either way, but also there's been, and I'm a little bit surprised by this, there comes a lot of teenage people here. A lot of schools come and visit the museum to know about gender and sexual education and stuff like that. And a lot of, actually some of the boys come over, and there come one boy very serious over to me, and he said to me, I really want to ask you something. And I said, okay. What do you want me to ask me? He said, and we had to walk over from the other boys, and he looked me in the eyes and said, I just want to ask you if you please could put a leaf over his penis. It's right in my face. And I said, why do you want me to cover it up? It's just too much. And I thought to myself, okay. I didn't really imagine teenage boys would like draw penises everywhere, right? To want to cover it up, and maybe this is a new thing, I don't know. So, but I think that's nice. Some of the old women is a little also like it, but there's also some of them who thinks, nearly 4 meter high sculpture in the Old Woman Museum of a man. That's also a little bit provocative. And yes, and then there is the internet we just have experienced now after it come up on the internet. And it's been taken in very grateful for most people. But there was I think a male blogger who shared it on his page, and then it's been shared a lot in a special environment. I'm not sure what the environment is, but it's kind of like a special way of male rights, and maybe also a little bit incel bloggy universe. But they hate it. They hate it, just to say it plain, and go after it, and not only go after it, but also go after the museum, but also me personal, which started now, which is quite funny because they talk about male rights and they want it. Now it's the male's day in Denmark, and you put a man with breast, and you want like the museum wants to like that's the philosophy. They want to make men into women, and this man with this man bum, he probably makes his own beer also. He's just like traitor and all this. But it even go worse, like they comment on the body, and he has a small penis, and all these things. And also gets worse than that actually. But in some way I like it, because that's exactly, it gives something to the sculpture. And also it translates to my own story as a young man. It translates to how I was bullied in school again, like the story I told you before, because it's exactly the same way, male holding males down. Yeah, so I'm probably going to use all the commentary for something, for a new art piece, maybe integrate it with this art piece, because I think it gives something to the discussion. I really wanted to talk to some of them, but they don't really seem to be willing to talk. But I really want to talk to them, because I think if we as males also can stand strong and be whole persons, it's very important that we don't hold each other down. I know it's been a problem also for the women's movement, how women hold women down, but I think actually it's the same for males as well. So that's how the discussions has been. But mostly I would say it's been very positively taken. Yeah. Other questions? No? Well, do you want to go down and sit?
Thank you.